Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. One of the viewers of our YouTube channel asked us to cover how technology will change the future of Big Four accounting. And technology is obviously going to change accounting for sure, but for those of you that like to worry, you don't have to worry about losing your job or losing your career as long as you are proactive. Think of all the technologies that have come online over the past years and decades, like Excel, Oracle, Salesforce, Thomson Reuters tax products, QuickBooks, among other hundreds of accounting and tax softwares. People have been predicting that accountants will be replaced for years now, or that they'll lose their job, or there'll be a downtick in jobs due to technology. But this still hasn't happened yet, really, at the Big Four at least. Just look at Deloitte. Deloitte hired over 90,000 people in their latest fiscal year. I mean, that's insane. And that is definitely a record for them, but that will most likely go down because we're heading into a bad economy. But that's still a really high number, and they're still going to be hiring people, especially as long as the Big Four, the way they make their revenue is based on hours. So as long as that's still tied to hours, they're still going to hire more people. However, if they move to fixed fee, then maybe you can see the number of people hired go down. So what type of technologies are out there? There's machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics, and visualizations. And these are the technologies that the Big Four accounting firms are trying to currently utilize the most. They all dabble in blockchain and other technologies, but the technologies I just mentioned are the ones that they're trying to push staff to utilize more and become familiar with. The problem with technology is it hasn't made a huge dent in the amount of work being performed at the Big Four so far. So I don't see how it can make a huge dent in the near future without a huge shift in public policy or an Elon Musk type person entering the accounting technology space. Technology has actually just made the amount of work performed at the Big Four go up over the years. And a lot of this is due to admin. There's just so much admin in the Big Four, and it never seems to go down. Based on my experience of the Big Four, 80% of a Big Four job is admin. And I'm not even exaggerating here. There's so much administrative work that you have to do. And every year when you work in the Big Four, leadership always says that they are going to work to decrease admin. However, it just never seems to happen. Somehow it just seems to keep increasing. For example, if you get better at billing, like sending bills to your clients or analyzing a bill, then too bad. You have to get better at selling and entering your sales information into Salesforce. Oh, you're also getting good at entering your information into Salesforce? Fine. Now you can turn that into a visualization for your partner. There's so much administrative work. And the better you get at it, it seems like the more that people hit you with. And the way I see technology being used is creating more opportunities for accountants. But technology is what you make of it. If you're hoping to get a job and just do data entry, then you're going to be out of luck. You have to set yourself apart somehow. And you can use technology to do that, or you can utilize relationships within the Big Four. Relationships will help you with the political side of the Big Four, which is essential to moving up in the ranks. Technology will have more of an impact on the clients of the Big Four than it does the Big Four itself. And this means that you're either working at a client, you can use technology more, or doing a project for a client, you can use technology. But like within the Big Four itself, it's so political and so administrative, it's like harder to stand out by using it inside of the Big Four. You have to do it by helping a client out or being at a client. For example, people can use technology to pull reports for them, or they can use it to book automated journal entries and run reports at the client. And automation can run reports on a daily basis and send them to your inbox. It can also book automated adjustments to your tax return if you have it hooked up to your general ledger. So much of what many accountants used to do was just data entry. You used to have your associates or people underneath you pull a report. They'd analyze that report the same way they do every month or quarter, and then they'd propose journal entries. And I'm talking about if you're in industry here. And someone reviews those journal entries, and then they book in the system. Now, all that can be automated with less errors. Because a lot of time when people are putting those reports and preparing journal entries and reviewing, they're just going through the motions. They're not really like motivated to do a good job. And don't get me wrong, not every company is doing this. There are many companies that still book entries to their financial statements using only Excel, or they analyze their financial statements in manually prepared Excel files. And I'm not talking about small companies either. I'm talking about Fortune 50 companies. And technology can replace most of this with automation. And I mean, obviously they can do this with machine learning and artificial intelligence, but I'm saying most of this can just be done with automation alone. Artificial intelligence and machine learning can make all this easier and more accurate. It can analyze transactions and entries and understand how it relates to the financial statements. It can then automate the movement from the ledger to the 10K in the future. And that's just like one side of it. Many accounts are going to say you can't do complex things. And there are many complex parts of accounting that will still need more review. But thinking that those complex items won't be replaced someday is ridiculous as well. Think of M&A. Everyone says that M&A is so complex and difficult, and this is because it often requires complex accounting. But many of these transactions are still similar. The only reason that there aren't more templates and automations for them is just because of confidentiality, not really because they're that complex, just people like to make it seem complex. And this is true for so many areas of accounting as well. There are best practices that could be implemented throughout accounting, but people are so obsessed with confidentiality that they don't bother sharing best practices. And I'm sure this confidentiality stuff and being limited by it is just part of the culture, and that will continue. But don't get me wrong, there will be some pioneers out there that will find ways to collaborate even though there's confidentiality. Like you could just simply replace a client name or client figures and just share what your client is doing without using their names. But a lot of people like to do this because they want to keep their job safe. So they say, oh, we can't share this because client confidentiality. But then that person leaves the firm and the next person just shares the information and keeps the client name anonymous. So it's really just a lot of people protecting their jobs and playing politics. So if you step back and you really think about it, can technology replace Big Four accounts? I think it's possible. If the Big Four accounting firms don't move completely to fixed fee engagements instead of billable hour, then there's a possibility they'll be replaced. And they also need to focus on adding value to their clients. Right now, the Big Four accounting firms have a nice revenue stream because all large organizations have to use them for financial statements. It's just who the investors trust and also who the government mandates that you have to use. However, if there's a software tool or technology that could replace the comfort that a Big Four audit provides, then the Big Four accounts could be easily replaced. Some people think that this might be blockchain technology. However, accountants won't let technology take their jobs without a fight. They will most likely lobby politicians to make their jobs mandatory. And that's basically the current setup right now. It's the regulatory mandate that you have to have an audit of your financial statements to be a public company, and that most investors trust the Big Four that allow them to exist. But this is also why you have so many scandals, is because the Big Four don't feel like there's any competition. However, you do see that being challenged around the world, where accounting firms get caught up in huge scandals and frauds. For example, in South Africa, KPMG got caught up in corruption, and some other accounting firms got caught up in corruption with the highest level politicians. So there you have politicians asking of whether they should be broken up. Even the government there is talking about helping smaller accounting firms win work so that the Big Four don't have so much power. With that, let's cover a few ways that technology will change what Big Four accountants do. An easy way that I think it'll change the day-to-day is billing. Because billing in the Big Four is a headache. Billing is completed on most engagements every month and on some occasions every 2 weeks. The whole process from pulling the latest timesheets to analyzing those timesheets to turning that information into a bill can all be automated. And don't get me wrong, this is already being done, but it is still not being done on a large scale. And even sending the bill to the client via email can be automated. And collecting those bills can also be automated or sent offshore. So much time is wasted in the Big Four accounting firms on billing. And some of it also is due to clients not wanting to pay the bill or delaying the payment of the bill. And clients usually like to have client personnel call them about the bill instead of being hassled by a third party, which also wastes a lot of Big Four time. However, this costs the clients so much money and wastes their time. So maybe there'll be some willingness to change there on the client side as well, as far as having a third party call them about collections or having the billing being automated. I would say about 10 to 20% of time in the Big Four is spent on billing in some way. And you can even categorize that as budgeting. If you lump budgeting in there, it's probably 20% of time. Just because, and people might disagree with me, but the way partners get their bonus payments is based on billing and revenue. So there's so much time spent on this. And people might not care about collections for a certain period of time, but when it comes to a point to where there's so many receivables outstanding, then everybody's chasing bills. So it's easily 10 or 20% of your time at the Big Four. But this doesn't mean the admin will go down. This will probably just be replaced by something else. Another way that Big Four accountants' jobs might change is auditing. Auditing will obviously also be changed by technology. There will be less time spent on ticking and tying work papers. You used to have to tie everything out by hand and put it in binders and flag it out. But now you have to tie everything out electronically. And this is also a waste of time, because if things tie out electronically, a lot of times they're linked in Excel, or that's the way they used to be done. But now you just get these reports, but these reports are automated from systems that have controls around them. And technology has the ability to speed this up and automate it, as long as the underlying documentation stays the same year over year. And people will still be needed to review the final product, in order to give it assurance. You can't say that you audited something if you just let a software do everything, but technology should be reliable enough to tie the initial work papers out. And I think you can see the impact of technology on audits already, as most of the world's largest audits are coming down in fees rapidly. And the most expensive audits nowadays are audits for financial services companies that have complex accounting rules or that have tons of M&A transactions. But other than that, you're going to see audit fees come down a lot. So how will this impact tax? Tax will also be changed completely by technology. Tax forms are a pain to fill out. You used to go into software and have to plug all the numbers in manually and check them against the work papers. Technology is making the automation from ledger to the tax filing software to the tax return seamless. And there will be some tax forms and information that will require manual work. But even the preparation of the work papers behind a tax return can be sped up by technology, and the work papers of any manual process can be sped up. So it's going to change audit and tax in the Big Four as we know it. That's just going to free up Big Four accountants to do other types of work. Technology is already changing the way the Big Four works, and it's doing this through Big Four initiatives. And this is because there are technology initiatives at every Big Four firm. Every Big Four firm requires their employees to reduce hours on their engagements through technology, or they offer huge cash prizes to their employees to come up with new technological solutions. So there's no Big Four firm out there that's saying, we're not using technology. All of them are making their employees use it. And it might not be mandatory across the board right now, but it's heading that way. Especially if the economy goes bad, they're not going to want to hire people, and they're going to want people to be more efficient. And this means using more technology. There's also a time period here where people still aren't technologically up to date, and you can take advantage of that. You can do way less work than other people if you use technology solutions, and you can take all the credit for it, and you can have more free time than other people while people perceive that you're working really hard. So take advantage of it while you can. In conclusion, as long as you're proactive and learn about technology, you will be okay. You don't have to worry about your job or your career. But if you sit there and hope that you can make it by just doing basic data entry, those days are gone. Don't get me wrong, you can coast for a while in a lot of jobs doing data entry, but don't expect a raise, and don't be surprised when you get laid off. You also can't coast on your technical skills anymore. And by technical skills, I mean technical accounting or technical tax knowledge. In my experience at the Big Four, everyone is being asked to step in and implement a technological solution on their engagements. No one is exempt. The only people that can dodge this are people in leadership or people that are good at office politics. Unless you are already in leadership or really good at office politics, you need to learn technology solutions. And go check out the podcast I did on the 3 technology solutions that every accountant needs to learn if you want a place to start. And if you're in college, this doesn't mean you can just sit back and worry about only learning the basic accounting stuff. You need to start learning these technology solutions in college too. And I would say don't worry about your accounting classes as much, because those don't matter as much when you're working. You're not going to use those right off the bat. Right off the bat, you're the young person in the office. People are going to look to you to be technology minded. And if you don't know how to do the basic stuff like Excel, people are going to wonder what you did in school. Start worrying about learning about technology in school. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of the schools might not even have these things, but that shouldn't stop you either. You should ask your professors or school administrators to get you access to some of these tools so you can start practicing now. And I'm sure these software companies would be more than happy to help you out, because then you just be a lifetime buyer if you like their software. So that's my overview of how I think technology will change accounting in the Big Four accounting firms. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and give this video a like and comment on it on our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening.